Hello everyone, Johnny Mind here, and today we are learning Japanese with Pokémon Snap. So yes, this is our new series. It was one of my two ideas that I mentioned at the end of the previous one, so last time. But yeah, this one is because first and foremost, I wanted to play a Pokemon game on the channel. Wanted to do so even before starting the Super Mario Advance 4 series. But then I realized that it was unfortunately too early, in the sense that the first mainline Pokemon games aren't on Switch and Switch 2 yet. Hopefully they will be. My guess would be if they're adding them maybe next year for the anniversary. We couldn't play Pokemon Let's Go, which was, I thought, immediately after as a possibility, because I discovered that it has a Kana option or a Kanji one, and we're definitely not playing through it twice just because of that. And we want, of course, to play it with the Kanji when we eventually do so. And so I wasn't sure what to play, but then I realized that we could play this, and perfect timing since this month Legends ZA is coming out, and so yeah, it's perfect also for that. Without further ado, let's start the app. Yeah, and as you can see, both with the sound effect, the color change, and also next to my icon, yeah, I'm playing with an N64 controller, because luckily I have it, got it discounted from my Nintendo store when it was available there. And yes, so we are playing. As you can see, despite not looking like it outside, this is the Japanese app. As you can see, as usual, we play, yeah, choosing this one. We have the sound effect. But yeah, we are playing Pokémon Snap. First and foremost, let's quickly check the title. As you can see, there's also in English the box art, well, the box art in general. We have the title also in English, in this case extended Pocket Monsters Snap. But yeah, in Japanese, in katakana, of course, it's Pokémon Snap. First and foremost, we have, of course, Pokémon, the abbreviation from Pocket Monsters. We'll check the accents of those, of course. Hopefully they are the same as in English, but we'll see. Okay, Pocchetto. Yeah, and it's actually, in this case, on the ke, so Pocchetto. Instead of on the po, as expected, so be careful. At least I would have as in pocket, and so yeah, I expect it on the po, but yeah, it's actually on the ke, so be careful. Pocchetto. And then we have Monsta. Well, technically Monsters in Japanese, but by adding the z, the plural, but in this case, but yeah, usually you'd find simply monster, monster, of course, and luckily in this case it's as expected, accented on the mo, on the first syllable, monster. Then we have, of course, snap, from snap in English. Of course, in this case, an abbreviation of snapshot. There's also that in Japanese, snapshot. In that case, extended, accented on the shot of the shot. So snapshot. But yeah, abbreviated on the na, as expected. Yeah, again, just like in English, snap. Then we have, well, we won't fully check them, but I still mention them. We have on the top left, camera action game. So yeah, it describes the kind of game, the genre. We could say a camera action game in English, written of course in katakana. Then at the bottom, well, we also have the, we'll ignore those at the very bottom, the writings, also because you can barely see them. More interesting also considering what we have seen before in previous series. Hitori yo, of course we have first and foremost the number 1, and then the kanji for a person. So again, a numeral plus counter combination. In this case, as I've mentioned before, we have usually you'd use nin, and so counter of Chinese origin for number of persons. But for the numbers 1 and 2, you use ri instead, which is of Japanese origin, and so you have to use Japanese numbers, numerals, and so in our case, hito, 1, and then ri, person, 1 person. After that, we have yo, which means use. Also, as in utilize, there's also, of course, strictly Japanese reading, but this one is the, yo is the Chinese one. But yeah, in this case, we have, it would be use of implied 1 person. So actually, for 1 person's use. So yeah, it's a single player game, simply telling us that. Okay, without further ado, we can start the game itself. Yeah, the sound effect, of course. We watch the intro. Yeah, it tells us that to pause the game, we have to press the ZR button on this controller. We have our protagonist in his blocky glory of since it's an N64 game, and yeah, we have this mysterious Pokemon, actually quite quite famous nowadays. But yeah, of course, this is an N64 game. The Phantom Pokemon, the Mirage Pokemon. Okay, and we have our title screen. Of course, we have again Pokémon Snap. What I didn't mention that in Japanese we often have this abbreviation for of two moras. In this case, we have moras, so more or less corresponding to the kana symbols, with the exceptions of small ya, yu, yo, I, u, e, o, because those count together with the previous. Wait, go back to the title screen. We don't need the demo. But yeah, 4 moras. In this case, from the first and the second word. From the 2 words, the first 2 moras and first 2 moras of both words. Yeah, this is a typical way to make such compounds. Another one, for example, Monhan for monster, Monster Hunter. Sometimes you have instead simply abbreviations of a word. Often still 4 moras, sometimes 3 instead. For example, I'm mentioning some that I've heard from Japanese during their reactions to the latest Direct, so quite recently. Bio for Biohazard, which is the Japanese name of Resident Evil. Well, let's go back to the title screen. Wanted to let's focus first and foremost on that writing. I'll actually do this so that we don't have to worry again about going back. And yeah, we have simply this writing in the center, more or less, of course, slightly lower because slightly above we have the title. Stato botan o oshite kudasai. First and foremost, we have stato, from English start. We check its accent, but it should be, I think, accented, yeah, as expected on the ta, so stato. As a reminder, the U in su is barely heard, if at all, because it's between unvoiced consonants. So, stato, start. But then we have botan. We have seen it multiple times before in previous series. It's button, but unaccented, and also with a slightly different pronunciation because it's actually from Portuguese, botão. And so yeah, botan, button, so the start button. Then we have the object particle o, written as wo and pronounced as such in careful speech and also singing. And then we have the verb oshite, and of course then kudasai. Okay. First and foremost, oshite from osu. We've also seen this one, especially in the Kirby's Adventure series, I'd say. Also think in the Super Mario Advance 4, but yeah, especially that one. Osu, unaccented, means to push, as in both to thrust, to shove, but also to push, as in press down, push a button, like in our case, and so on. Yeah, typical verb for seen in video games, as in to push button, to push a certain button, in our case the start button. it's a verb code verb, so we have to follow the rules to make the te form. It's in su, so it's the easiest one. It becomes simply, we change the u into i to make si, and then add te or ste. So most likely the only one that kept actually the continuative form, and then simply added te. The other ones we have seen more often than not change. We make the te form in this case to then add kudasai. We've mentioned it several times, but it's always useful to review it. Kudasaru is one of the verbs of giving. A superior gives to an inferior. Literally, most likely, considering that in this case we would use, if written with kanji, the verb kanji for low, and so from above to the bottom, both figuratively, most likely once also literally, if the person of higher status stayed higher, also physically. But yeah, kudasaru, verb of giving, to give, honorific or language. Then we make the continuative form, but as we have seen before, for these honorific verbs, more often than not, it becomes, instead of, it would be usually a godan verb, so verb, godan verb, so we would change the u into i, so kudasari, but then actually the r fell, and so it stayed as kudasai. Continuative form to actually then add masse, and so the imperative form of mass, the auxiliary verb used to make the polite form of verbs, but more often than not, nowadays, it's not written, it's omitted. There's at the very least one exception, or at least one particularly, one notable exception, but we'll see it when the time comes. But yeah, verb of giving, so to give, but in this case, since it comes after the form of a verb, it's actually to do the favor of doing the action of the verb in te. And so, literally would be make the favor of pressing the start button. In translation, we can translate it as please press the start button. So in kudasai, to make the polite form of the imperative. Okay, now that we have seen this, we can go back to the game itself. Press the start button. First and foremost, we have these options. Well, funny enough, considering what the second one is. But yeah, the first one, which we'll press in a second, because first we'll check the rest, is Hajime Kara. We've seen it before, also in the previous series. I think it was next to the new files, because yes, of course, Hajime comes from Hajimeru, which means to begin, to start, the verb. Sorry, that goes away. Unaccented. It's a ru verb, ichidan verb, so we can drop the ru to make the continuative form, and so the corresponding noun, and so beginning, start. Then we have the particle kara, which means from, and so yeah, from the beginning, from the start of the game, of course. The other option, and that's why I was mentioning, was funny. It's literally option from English. Because of course it's where we'll have all the options that we will be able to change. We check the accent of these, and yeah, it's as expected on the O on the first syllable, just like in English, option. Again, the U is barely, of the P is barely heard if at all, considering that it's between voice consonants, so option. And yeah, we'll check the options first. Okay, and there's actually a lot, so yeah, this will be as usual. These first episodes will be more intensive when it comes to the writings, because we have, of course, we haven't seen any of them, but yeah, it's worth checking them out. Well, at the top we have on the left option again. Then we have the icon for the A button, which says, and next to it, che te. As a reminder again, we have, well, first and foremost, we have, of course, the small tsu, which doubles the following consonant. But more importantly, because you might not remember that, more than the doubling of the consonant, that the E after an E is usually pronounced nowadays, at least in Standard Japanese, as long E is the lengthening of the vowel E. So, kete. Some still pronounce it, and also, of course, considering the potential dialects, as A. Kete is actually a Chinese compound, which means decision, but also determination, but in the sense of decision. Let's check its accent. Yeah, as expected, as we have seen, for most of these Chinese compounds of two characters, they're more often than not unaccented, and it's the case also of this one. So yeah, literally would be decision, but since it's a Chinese compound, we could then add the verb suru, which means to do, literally to make to do decision, and so to decide. And yeah, the A button is to decide the options, in our case here. While we have then, and then we have the icon for the button B, and next to it, Kyanseru, which comes from English cancel. As a reminder, here we see again that kya used to make the sound e, because of course Japanese don't have it, and so the approximation is kya, kya. And so yeah, we have Kyanseru, which means is literal cancel from English. As a noun then, because technically it's a noun on its own again, cancellation, but then also for these English words, usually we can add the verb suru to do a cancellation, and so to cancel. Let's see its accent. Okay, as expected, it's just like in English, kya on the kya, so on the first syllable, Kyanseru. Okay, then we have these options, and also their explanations in the box. First and foremost, we have gamen, chose. Here we see also the u after an O, making simply to mark the in modern Japanese, because of course it was actually an actual U in the past. But yeah, nowadays it's the lengthening of the O vowel, and this is always the case. So, chose. But first we have gamen, quite a useful word for video games, because gamen, we'll check its accent, it's technically a Chinese compound, but in this case, okay, yeah, in this case it's actually accented on the first syllable, on the gamen. So be careful. And yeah, its meaning is screen of a TV computer. Technically also by extension the image on such a screen, picture, a scene. Technically, and this is most likely its original meaning, the surface of a painting, because ga would be painting, picture, drawing, while man, surface. But yeah, now in our case, of course, screen, as we'll see even better in the description. Then we have chose, which means regulation. Yeah, adjustment also, as it says here. Other similar meanings, but yeah, the fundamental one is adjustment, I'd say, regulation, considering the two kanji it would use. Technically, there would be several words with such a pronunciation, but of course it could change the accent, but it's not guaranteed, far from it, considering they're all Chinese compounds. But yeah, this one is definitely the one for adjustment, unaccented, as expected. And so yeah, screen, adjustment. But as we can see better in the description, terebi gamen no hyoji hyoji ichi o jose shimasu. First and foremost, we have terebi gamen. First and foremost, well, terebi is of course television, TV, the abbreviation. Extended, it would be television, and would be accented on the B as expected. Notice how it uses, in this case, B instead of V, which now exists in Japanese, but of course when the televisions started showing up in Japan, they didn't have the sound V, and so they replaced it with B. Yeah, as expected, accented on the B, television. More often than not nowadays, abbreviated as terebi. In which case it's actually accented on the first syllable, on the terebi. So yeah, we have terebi, television, then again gamen, so the television, the TV screen. Then we have the possessive particle no, so off. Hey SKS, nice to see you here. Sorry that I noticed it only now, since I was checking also the dictionary for the accents. But yeah, so we have off the TV screen. Then we have hyoji, which means the expression. As it says also here, indication, showing, technically also manifestation, demonstration. But of course, when it comes to computing, it's displaying. Of course, it's a Chinese compound. Let's see its accent, unaccented as expected. And so we can make, of course, then the suru, the verb, the corresponding verb with suru, so to display, literally to do displaying, hyoji, suru. But yeah, in this case we have displaying. Then we have ichi, which in this case you might be thinking, for those who have followed so far, what has the number 1 to do with this, because it's actually not the number 1. It's a Chinese compound of 2 characters, one pronounced as the I, the second one as chi, which means place, position. Also position as in standing, status, situation. Yeah, the fundamental meaning is position. And by the way, and that's why again we are checking all these accents. Unfortunately, when I studied Japanese myself on my own, and even more so at the university, at a private school, and so on, accents, the Japanese accents, are barely mentioned, if at all. So unfortunately, I don't know them as well because of that. But they can actually be quite useful because they can distinguish words. Like in our case, as we have seen before, ichi, the number 1, is accented on the second, on the last syllable, ichi. This one, on the other hand, is accented on the first syllable, ichi. Ichi. Of course, in this case, technically it's a compound, so it would change because of that, potentially. Although, as we have often seen, the accent in such compounds, it's either on the first syllables of the second part, so it would be the same in this case, ichi, or on the last syllable of the first part, so on the ji. There technically are either rules or at least tendencies, according to my physical accent dictionaries, but yeah, they're quite complex. Let's stick to the general tendency rule I keep on mentioning. But yeah, so hyoji ichi means the position of displaying, of the display. Then we have the object particle o, and then we have again chose, but in this case we had shimasu. So as I mentioned, we had the verb suru, to do. To make the continuative form, unfortunately, suru is one of the completely irregular verbs, so we simply have to remember that it becomes shi in its continuative form. Here necessary to add mas. As already said, the auxiliary verb used to make the verb the polite form of the verb, in this case in its present affirmative. And then last but not least, you can see the period, which in Japanese, as you can see here, not clearly because, of course, of the limitations of at the time. Yeah, no, I'm not going to play Mario 4 today, SKS, because we've actually finished it last time. So we've played all the e-reader levels. We had before that finished the game, the base game, and so yeah, today we are we are starting this new series. Of course, we are starting this new series, so for some time we'll play Pokémon Snap, but of course after that we'll go back, we'll have a new series, and we'll eventually go back to other Mario games, of course, because I want to play them all, if it isn't clear enough at this point, but yeah, of course, we'll play the current series, Pokémon Snap, then we move on to another one, which could be another Mario game or something else. We'll see when the time comes, but yeah, that's it. Let's go back to our description here. So yeah, we have the period, so it ends there. The sentence, it's a small circle in Japanese, instead of a simple dot. And yeah, we can now translate it, adjust the position of the displaying of, or better, to avoid adding an additional of, adjust the displaying position of the TV screen. And yes, so this is the option. If we press A to confirm, yeah, we could use it to adjust the position, but we won't do it. We'll keep it as is. Then we have Soundo Sette, which is comes first and foremost. We have Soundo, of course, from English, sound. We'll check, and good thing we did, because it's actually one of those English words which are unaccented in Japanese, so soundo. Again, I wonder if some of these words which are unaccented, it's because they are some of the first words which came to Japan. Could make sense, considering that soundo, sound is quite a basic word. But either way, keep it in mind, unaccented. Then we have sette. I don't remember if we have seen it before, but I kind of think we did. But either way, this is a Chinese compound, which means, we check also its accent. Yeah, unaccented as expected. Would be the setting of a movie, a novel, and so on. So the scene. Also the establishment, the creation of something, of course, by extension from setting a scene of a movie and so on. But then it also becomes the setting, as in options setting, preference settings. And so yeah, it's actually the word used in Japanese, of Japanese, actually Chinese origin, for option, or even better, for setting, as in option setting, preference settings. So yeah, we have the sound settings. Then to the right we have the two options. Well, actually we'll check them out after, since sorry, I didn't mention, I didn't check the description above, so we'll go back to this. You notice that it changed it, but I guessed it because of the other options changing. We check this. Quite a long one, by the way. 3D スティックを動かしてオレンジ色の枠が見えやすいように調整してください。Quite a long sentence, but we'll check it. First and foremost, we have 3D just like in English. And in this case, let's say the 3 most likely is pronounced as 3 from English. I'll actually see if I can find in the dictionary its pronunciation. Yeah, the accent is on the ri as expected. Suri. And then of course we have D. Then we have stick, the 3D stick. Let's check the accent of that. Okay, couldn't find it that way because of the usual. Not like this. Yeah, you have to write it with su, t, x, x, I, and then the double Q to search it in the dictionary. Stick. Let's see its accent. Yeah, it's on the T as expected, just like in English. Stick. Of course, the U is barely heard, if at all. Technically, both the one in S, because it's between unvoiced consonants, while the other one at the end of Q, because it's at the end and before it has an unvoiced consonant. So stick. But yeah, we have the 3D stick, then we have the object particle O. Then we have the verb ugokaste, from ugokasu. We check its accent, but it means to move, as in the transitive verb, because the intransitive verb, which means to move, is ugoku. We check both the accent of both. Yeah, ugoku accented, and so as expected, also ugokasu accented. Notice yet again that we have the intransitive in u, the transitive in asu, and yeah, as mentioned before, it's yet again a classical form of the causative form of a verb, of the verb. The causative form, which then became the transitive form of the verb. To cause, to move, literally, and so yeah, to move, as in to move something, not something moves. Then we make the te form. It's a verb code verb. We have to follow the rules. It's again in su, so it becomes a si. So the continuative form, and then we have te. As a reminder, the te form is accented on the third to last syllable. So luckily in this case it stays on the ka. But yeah, that's the rule. While in the dictionary form, final form, in the present, of course, plain present, it would be on the second to last syllable, ugokasu, while here it's ugokashite. And so yeah, the translation, of course, it becomes, sorry, pressing it with the B, because I'm worried by pressing the control stick to change it, and we don't want to change it. But yeah, so we have could be move and, I'd say in this case better by moving the 3D stick, control stick. Then we have orange iro, from orange, which means orange from English. First and foremost as the fruit, because technically actually, well, could also work as the color as is, but even better by adding iro, which we have seen is the word for color. So yeah, on its own usually orange is the fruit. Let's check its accent. And yeah, it's actually orangey. So not like in English technically, because it would be orange. While in Japanese it's on the re, orangey, so be careful. Yeah, orange. And then we have iro, as mentioned. It means color. Should be accented on the last syllable, and it is, yes, as I remember correctly. But when adding iro to something to make the corresponding color, literally an orange color, or better, orange colored, because orange iro is technically also a noun, but by using the possessive particle, like in this case, we can make the adjective literally something of orange color, something orange. But yeah, as I was mentioning, orange iro, if I recall correctly, should be unaccented, and yes, it is. And I'll quickly check in the physical dictionary, because I'm pretty sure that iro is one of those words which then makes always the word, when used as a suffix, then makes the whole word unaccented, but we'll quickly check. Okay, got the dictionary. We quickly check if that's the case. Iro. And yeah, here it is. Iro, when added as a suffix, then it's always unaccented, so quite useful to remember. Makes it also easier, of course, because but yeah, then we add the particle no, as I mentioned. And then we have our noun, something of color orange, word which is waku, which means frame, framework also. Of course, frame, and so by extension border, box, other extended meanings, but yeah, in our case, let's say frame or border. It's accented on the last syllable, waku, and it's a word of strictly Japanese origin, And funny enough, its kanji is actually a so-called kokuji. So a character, literally it's kokuji. We check also its accent. Yeah, it's unaccented, as it's technically a Chinese compound between koku, which we have seen before means country, and then ji, which means character, and so literally country character. It has technically several meanings, but in this case it would be it's the term used to for kanji created in Japan and not in China. So the Japanese made this kanji. It's a Japanese made kanji. But yeah, we'll see it, of course, when the time comes for that, when we'll actually see it. Okay, so let's continue. Then we have the subject particle ga. Then we have mie yasui, technically a compound between the verb mieru which is technically also a compound between miru which is the verb to see, to look, to watch, to view, to observe, and other extended meanings, but yeah, the fundamental meaning is to see. Then we have eru, which while nowadays it's usually written in hiragana, even if we use the kanji, it comes from the verb eru on its own, written with the kanji, which means to get, to earn, to acquire, and so on, other extended meanings. And it's used because of that to get, to earn, also as an auxiliary verb after the continuative form, the mass stem of a verb, because by the way, yeah, I didn't mention that miru is a ru verb, it's a verb, so we can drop the ru to make the continuative form. Here needed to add eru, the second part of the compound, the second verb part of the compound. But yeah, eru, when added after the continuative form of a verb, means to be able to, can, because of course of that original meaning, to get, to earn. To get, figuratively, to do the action or to earn the action of the main verb. And so yeah, to be able to do that, can do that. You might wonder, haven't we seen something in eru which also means to be able to, can? Yeah, it's actually the potential form of verbs most likely comes from this verb eru, and then simply it got modified in other verbs there were contractions and so on, but yeah, most likely the origin is that one. So yeah, technically mieru, luckily also accented like miru and like eru, means to be able to see, but it's actually used to be able to see in the sense of something being seen, being visible, be in sight. Also by extension, of course, to look, to seem, to appear. But yeah, the fundamental meaning is to be seen, to be visible, to be in sight. Then mieru, just like eru, is root verb, incident verb, so we can drop the root to make the continuative form. In this case, required to add yasui. Yasui, which when used after the continuative form of a verb, means easy. There's a different yasui used on its own, which has different meanings, but let's ignore it for now. But yeah, we have this one, which means easy. So easy to be seen, literally. After that, we have yo, which we have seen, in this case, it's the one we have seen before, which means after can mean form, style, design, like, similar to, appearing, looking, or of course all because of that form, style, design. I'd also add way. And yeah, it also shows as a way to, method of doing. But in this particular case, then we have ni, the particle which means to. In this case, to, as in order to. And yeah, with this yo before, it would be something like in order to, so that is a better, yeah, I also found it also in the dictionary just by checking it. So that, in order that, so as to, in order to. Also like as, but that's it's simply more because of yo and then ni, as in adverbial, I'd say. But in this case, it's more like in order to. So in order to make it, in order for it to be easier to be seen, the border, the frame, the orange border frame. And then last but not least, we have chose shite kudasai. Again, we have chose, then we add the verb suru in its form, shite, and to then add, of course, kudasai. Again, literally make the favor of adjusting it. Please adjust the please adjust by moving the 3D stick in order to so that the orange frame is becomes easier to be seen. And yeah, this is the translation, quite a long and also not as easy sentence, but yeah, now we've checked it out. Okay, I'd say we can take now our usual break. When we are back, I'd say we can actually, because I don't want to do only these today, we check the other options at the start of future episodes, well, we'll check just this option since we'll pick it, even though you might have already seen what it means if you know hiragana, or you remember that we have actually seen it written also in a previous series. But yeah, we'll see this option, its description, and then yeah, we'll actually start playing the game after our usual 5 minutes, around 5 minutes break. So see you in around 5 minutes. Oops, didn't want to take the capture. Okay. And we are back. And yeah, now we start the game again. We'll quickly check this option. The option is Modoru. We have seen it before in both the previous series and also in the Kirby's Adventure 1. And in that case, we've also seen it literally assigned in-game with this verb. Modoru means to return. It's the intransitive form of the verb. the transitive one, as a reminder, is Modossu. But yeah, Modoru to return. And of course, then in the description it says Taitoru Kamen ni Modorimasu. So first and foremost we have Taitoru, title in English. I think we have seen it before and should be accented on the first syllable, yes, as expected, on the ta, Taitoru. Then we have, of course, Gamen, again, in our case, screen. So, the title, screen. Then we have the particle ni, here in tu, as in the movement, because then, of course, we have the verb Modoru, as it conjugated as Modorimasu. So simply Modoru, it's a U verb, Godan verb, so we can change the U into I to make the continuative form. Then add mas, to then add mas, and again the auxiliary verb to make the polite form of the verb. And then we have our period, again the small circle. So yeah, it simply says return to the title screen. And yeah, wanted to quickly check it since we are of course choosing that now, to finally actually play from the start, as we have seen before, Hajime Kara, so that we can finally actually start playing the game, of course. Before that, we have these to check. First, let's check the card, as it says here. Pokémon Cameraman Kado. So yeah, again we have Pokémon, of course. Then we have Cameraman. So, of course, cameraman in from English. Let's check its accent. Okay, in Japanese it's accented on the ra. It looks like it's treated as a compound. Well, technically it's a compound, also in English. And so the accent is on the last syllable of the first word, the first noun in this case, so on the ra, cameraman. Yeah, cameraman. And last but not least, kado, card. I don't remember if this... Okay, no. This one is actually accented as expected on the ka, on the first syllable, kado. So yeah, card. All kinds of cards. Here is in kind of an ID card. And we have to... well, it explains under where we'll put our name. With that small arrow, first and foremost. Then it says, Koko ni kimi no namae o kaku no ja. Technically, the sentence then ends there, and then it continues after that, but we stop here for now. First and foremost, we have Koko. We have seen it multiple times before. It's yet again one of the Koso-ado words. Ko, closer to both the speaker and the listener. So, far from the speaker, close to the listener. A, far from both. Do, the interrogative words. Koso-a, unaccented usually. Do, accented on the first syllable, so on the do itself. When we add ko, we make the corresponding the location. So here this place. So yeah, we have here. Then we have the particle ni, which means it's to it technically it shows the place where the action will happen, but in this case it's you might wonder also when we see the verb that it's not the usual verbs of staying. Wouldn't you use the in that case? Yeah, but because here it's more than a place. It's as we see, the verb is right here. Right by putting into putting the writing into here. Here that's how we could explain that ni, but yeah, another explanation is that when you write and something and make contact with, you then use ni. But yeah, by thinking it as in putting the writing into, it might be easier to remember why you use ni in this case. Then we have kimi. Notice written in katakana. I'd say in this case could be the usage of katakana because kimi is actually a strictly Japanese word. I think it's accented. No, actually it's unaccented, so kimi. Sorry. It's a strictly Japanese word, which means well, the original meaning was monarch, ruler, sovereign, one's master. But funny enough, then it actually became, and it's the meaning in contemporary Japanese, a pronoun for you. And actually one in a familiar language referring to someone of equal or lower status. As it says also in the dictionary, sometimes considered the male language, but and yeah, you could use other pronouns for well, male language, and so used by males, but yeah, no, in practice could be used also by females. That's why it says sometimes. But yeah, it's a familiar you pronoun. Here in katakana, my guess is for its one of the usages of katakana is to give emphasis to words. Of course, it can be used. It's used in such a way for words usually written in hiragana. If it's an English word, then tough luck. Technically, putting it in hiragana, even though you shouldn't, would be more effective for such words. But yeah, for strictly Japanese or Chinese, the Chinese readings of kanji, when you put them in katakana, unless it's required in certain cases, it's also used as emphasis, just like capital letters or italics in English. But yeah, we have you, then kimi, then the possessive particle no. So of, you, your, Then we have namae. I think we have seen it before, but it means, I think we have seen it in a previous series. It means name, usually as in given name, first name. It's unaccented, usually because also consider that it has na, which on its own means name. Should be unaccented if I recall correctly on its own. Yeah, it is. And then also mae, which means usually before. But yeah, namae means name in general, but more often than not, given name specifically. Then we have the object particle o. And then, as I introduced, we have kaku, which means to write. Should be accented, but we'll check. Technically, and usually distinguished with the kanji, kaku can also mean to draw, to paint, because of course they're related since you traditionally use brushes to write in Japanese, and so yeah, that's why they are related. But as a reminder, I think we have seen egaku. We have that compound verb with which means picture, and then gaku, of course, again as usual. We have the voiced consonant adding the dakuten because it's a compound of strictly Japanese origin, the second part, and so often that's the case. Literally in that case, picture, drawing, and so that egaku is to draw, also to distinguish it from kaku, to write. But technically you can also use kaku to write and simply distinguish it with the kanji. But yeah, in this case it's clearly kaku as in write your name. Then we have no, za. You might remember that when we find this no and a certain something, which is in this case, but we'll see why it's different, no with the copula, it means the expectation is that, the reason is that, the fact is that no is most likely, well, could simply be a nominalizer, or also the fact, similar to koto as we have seen before, thing as in matter. The explanation is that, or even simply it is that. But in this case we have za instead of the usual da. In plain speech, des we have also seen in polite speech. Za is another form of the copula. Technically, it's from dialects, but in fiction, it says in the dictionary in animation and foreign language dubbing, it's the copula used to indicate that a person is old. So yeah, an old person is speaking in this case, so we have za instead of da. We'll see why we have this, who this old person is, even though you might have guessed it, either because you have played the game before, or simply by the context, but we'll see it because there's literally the signature at the bottom here of this card. But before that we have nakusha dame, first and foremost, we have nakusu, which is a verb. Actually, it comes from, well, should be, okay, no, it's actually unaccented, nakusu, even though it comes technically from nai, the adjective which means to not be, without. Then we drop the e to add ku to make the adverbial form, technically also a continuative form of the adjective, also used for certain conjugations, but it's better to distinguish it in modern Japanese, so we could say the adverbial form. And in this case we would then add su, which is the classical form of the verb suru. So to do, to make it as for it to not be, but yeah, it's actually the verb which means well, also to lose something, which is our meaning in this case, but most likely because as in an extended meaning from to get rid of, to eliminate, to remove, to eradicate, to abolish. And yeah, that's most likely the original meaning, as we have seen from the naku, and then the verb suru, because the adverbial form of adjectives plus suru means to make it so it becomes in that way, in that and so make it so it becomes nothing, we could say, becomes not being there. And so yeah, to get rid of, to eliminate, to remove. Yeah, in our case it's to lose. Then we have this sha, which is actually a contracted form. The extended form would be shi te wa. So first and foremost, the te form. So we have to make nakusu is in u verb, codon verb in contemporary Japanese. So we simply change the u into i and then add te, so make the continuative form, and add te to make the te form. Then we add wa, the particle. The form te wa, I think I've mentioned it before in a previous series, means if it gets the meaning if, or you could see it as the usual wa, as in the as for doing that action, the action of the te form, of the verb in the te form, if implied then if you do it. And yeah, then we have that stewa becomes contracted into si cha. Notice the ch, which because te is part of the tagyo, tachi tsu te to sha. And last but not least, we have dame. We check its accent. I think accented on the second syllable, the last syllable, yes, dame, which means no good, not serving its purpose, useless, broken, and so also not serving its purpose, so purposeless, hopeless, wasted, in vain. by extension, and this is the meaning we have here, it means cannot, as in must, not allowed. And so yeah, this te, wa, da me form, it's a negative command, as in you mustn't lose implied it, so the card, you mustn't lose it. And then we have, of course, the exclamation mark. Last but not least, we have the signature. Okido. Okido is the Japanese name of Professor Oak. According to Bulbapedia, there's an explanation there. I don't agree with it. It says O from big and then key from tree. But then, where does the do come from? It's the second explanation they give, which makes the most sense also to me. Okido, as in the English word orchid. Yeah, so I'd say so Professor Orchid is Professor Oak's Japanese name. Okay, last but not least, we have the description, the instructions in the box. We'll quickly check those. Kado ni name o kaite ne. Again, what practically it's said on the card shorthand. Kado, the card. Ni, again, as in into, right into. Right in the card. Then we have again namae, the name, the object particle o, and then we have kaite from kaku, to write. We make that a form. It's a verb code verb, so we have to follow the rules. Being in ku, it becomes ite, most likely because it was originally ki te, and then the k dropped, and so kaite. Kaite. Of course, in this case, that a form used with an implied kudasai. Please write your implied name in the card. Last but not least, we have the final sentence particle ne. In this case, let's say to make a request, an informal request. Will you? Yeah, and it's or also a please, as it says also in the dictionary. Then we have 3D stickude, erande, e botante, kette. First and foremost, we have again 3D stick, the 3D stick, so the control stick. Then we have the particle de. You can barely see the duck 10, but it's there. So de in this case, the means with. Then we have the verb erande. I think it's actually unaccented, but we'll check. Erabu means to choose, to select, to pick out, to choose, the fundamental translation. Okay, no, actually accented, so erande, erabu. We then make the form. It's a verb colon verb. We have to follow the rules. Being in bu, it becomes de. Again, because well, first and foremost, most likely it was era B, but in classical Japanese it was the voiced consonants were actually also prenasalized, so eran B, and that nasal consonant then became the N, and then we had the Te that becomes also voiced erande. In this case, that a form to, I'd say, the meaning and. Choose with the 3D stick, the control stick, and a button. Of course, here we have even the icon of the A button, and we have, of course, again button. Again the particle with the means, and last but not least we have again che te. So of course in this case implied verb suru, and yeah, we have so the full translation becomes choose with the 3D stick, the control stick, and decide with the A button. And so yeah, those are the instructions. We'll do so. Since our character is actually a character that has a name, I'll actually give him his name, which is in Japanese, well, in English it's Todd Snap. In Japanese it's To O. By the way, notice with an actual O instead of the usual U. And last but not least, Ru. Toru. Toru, which according to Bulbapedia, because I checked it beforehand, because I didn't know it, to be completely honest, it most likely comes from the verb toru, which could mean simply to get, to take, even better, to take, also to get, but the fundamental meaning is to take, with a certain kanji. With another kanji, it means to take, but specifically of to take a photograph. And yeah, so toru, to take a photograph, and so yeah, most likely that's the meaning, the origin. But there's actually also another verb, and in this case actually with a long O, also written with O instead of U, because it's of strictly Japanese origin, by the way. Toru, which means to go by, to go past, to go along, to travel along. I'd say the best, the fundamental translation is to go / travel along, and all the other ones related. To pass through would be also translation. Also used as in to run between of a rail service, a bus route. And we'll see that actually that would make sense for our character, but we'll see why in a second. Okay, without further ado, let's confirm it. We have at the bottom, well, we quickly check, well, above we have all the kana. In our case I switched to katakana, all the regular ones, then the voiced ones with Dakuten, Handakuten, the small ones, a, u, e, o, the small tsu, ya, yu, yo, the long vowel mark. Then we have the options hiragana, below it katakana, as a reminder, the accent for hiragana and katakana is on the ga and on the second ka, respectively. So always on the gana, kana, because it's a compound, again, of strictly Japanese origin. So it's the accent is on the first part of on the first syllable of the second noun of the compound. Then we have esu, which means literally English, because is the Chinese character used to represent English, also England, when I did before, of course, koku, koku. By adding go, koku, by the way, an accent as expected, ego, with the go for language, the English language, unaccented also as expected. In this case also because of the go as usual for languages. Su is the kanji for numbers. So yeah, it's actually the term used esu. Unfortunately in the online dictionary, the plugin doesn't say the accent. I'll check if there is on the physical dictionary. But the meaning would be actually in computing alphanumeric characters, so the letters of the English alphabet and numbers. We'll see if I can find it quickly in the physical dictionary. Su. Nope, unfortunately it isn't there. So my guess would be unaccented because it's a Chinese compound. Then we have here modoru. Again, we have already seen it, to return. We have susumu, the other verb we have seen on the sign in Kirby's Adventure, which means the opposite, to advance, and is unaccented. Yes, it's unaccented. Last but not least, we have owari. We have seen it at the end, funny enough, of Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario Advance 4 in our case. Owari comes from the verb owaru, should both be unaccented, and they are. Owaru, which means it's to end, to finish, as in to come to an end. It's the intransitive verb. It's a u verb. It's a go-down verb, so we can change the u into i to make the corresponding noun. Owari, sorry, the continuative form, and so the corresponding noun. And so yeah, end, ending, close, conclusion. Yeah, in our case, conclusion, as in to finish this part. We press it. And we got to hear immediately Professor Oak saying Yoku kita no. And then, of course, it doesn't pronounce your name that you put in. So in this case, Yoku kita no Toru yo. Yoku first and foremost, from yoi, the adjective, also pronounced more often than not when not conjugated, like in this case as I, and it means good, all the good, excellent, fine, nice, and so on is accented. In this case, it's a I adjective, so we can drop the I and add Q to make the adverbial form. In this case, literally adverbial to make the adverb well. And then we have kita from the verb kuru, which means to come, accented. And then we make the its ta form. Kuru is the other completely irregular verb, so we have to remember that it becomes ki, and then we add ta, kita. Come in the past, in its past form in plain speech. But yeah, literally it's come. Welcome. It's one way to say technically welcome, even though there's another word for technically the greeting. But yeah, this is literally welcome. Then we have no, which is yet again actually particle, a final sentence particle in this case, used by old people in fiction. As you might see, also used for characters old, well, I'd say better to say in characters from older times, ancient times. We've seen it, for example, when we watched the Nintendo Direct, that Sotis used it from Fire Emblem. But yeah, in this case, because Professor Oak is old. But yeah, its meaning is actually it's an emphasis adding particle. So yeah, it simply adds emphasis. Others, not all the characters would usually use na, technically also short, but more often than not, luckily, because otherwise it could be confused, it's actually long, na. But yeah, simply adds emphasis. Then we have our name, and last but not least, the final sentence particle, yo. Actually, in this case, used after a noun, as in hey, as in we are calling out to someone. Welcome, Toru, to then, of course, call Toru. Then we have washi ga Pokémon no kenkyū de yumei na ano okido ja. First and foremost, we have washi. We have seen it during the previous series when the king used it. It's an accent, washi, because it's actually an abbreviation of watashi, the extended form used now in formal contexts. The more common one is watashi. Yeah, washi is a further abbreviated one. Technically also here says male term or language, but yeah, more often than not it's simply used by the elderly, like in our case, of course. I, then we have the subject particle ga. Pokémon, again. the possessive particle no, so of Pokemon. Then we have Kenkyu, which means research, study, investigation, but the fundamental meaning is research. Is a Chinese compound and it's unaccented as expected. Then we have the particle de. I'd say in this case, thanks to, could be an abbreviation of no okage de. Technically, but yeah, definitely in its, I'd say, or we could say because of, but yeah, no, more in the sense of thanks to, as we'll see because of the following part, which is you may. Literally, it's a Chinese compound which. So let's actually check its accent. Okay, unaccented as expected. Literally, you to have the Chinese reading of the verb aru. May the Chinese reading, one of the Chinese readings actually in this case, of the word for name, knights is strictly Japanese one. So literally that has name, as in is famous, is well known, it's an adjective. As we can see also here with the na after it, Yumena, famous. Then we have ano, again one of the koso ado words. In this case, we had no to make the adjective, the demonstrative adjective, so that followed by a noun which is okido. That, in this case, of course, in translation, we have to swap them. That famous orchid, ok, of course, in English. Last but not least, we have again the the copula used by the older characters, by the elderly. Yeah, required, of course, because we have a noun before it. So the translation of this part is I am that oak. Well, we can also keep it like this way. I am that oak, famous thanks to the research of Pokemon. Then we have this. 今回君に来てもらったのはわしが今作っているこのポケモンレポート and then suspension dots. First and foremost, we have 今回, which means we have again kai, the counter of occurrences, so also translated as a noun on its own, a time, an instance. Kon is the Chinese character, in this case that with its Chinese reading, which means now. So this time, now. So this time, kimi, again, you. Then we have the particle ni, in this case tu. Then we have kite from kuru, again the verb to come. It's the form completely irregular, so we have becomes kite just like kita in the ta form, which is formed in the same way, but of course we replace ta with te. Used in this case to then add moratta from morau to receive. We check its accent, I think unaccented, but yeah, unaccented. But of course, after the te form of a verb, just like all the verbs of giving, it actually means to get someone to do something, as in to receive the favor of someone else, of someone to do the action of the te verb, verb in the te form. Morau, it's a verb code and verb. We have to follow the rules to make the ta form. It's in U, so it becomes double consonant ta, again as a reminder, because that U actually was fu from actually so pu originally, so mora pi ta, the I fell, morap ta, difficult to pronounce, double consonant ta. Then we have no. Again, in this case, the nominalizer for the verb, or again, fact. And then we have the topic particle, wa. So the translation so far would be as for, well, this time, as for, actually, no, in this case could also be the thing well, let's consider the context first and foremost. Ok is giving us, or better in this case, since we have the verb morau, we have received from ok, from the Pokemon report, as we'll see soon enough. So the translation so far, I'd say, as for what you received, you came and received. I'd say this could be the best, a good translation. Let's not complicate our life further. And let's check the rest. First we have, of course, again washi, I, because old, ok is old, the subject particle ga. Then we have ima, which is the strictly Japanese reading of the kon, the kanji with the reading kon. Ima means now. There is another ima, but with a different accent, and we'll ignore it for now. This is accent on the first syllable, ima, and means now, the present time. Then we have the verb tsukuteiru. Tsukuru is the verb which means to make, to produce, and so on. It can be, but the fundamental meaning is to make. Should be accented, so tsukuru, tsukuru. Then, of course, we have to make the formats. It's a verb, code, and verb. We have to follow the rules. It's in ru, so it becomes double consonant te. Again, most likely the continuative form, then the I fail, and so zukur te, difficult to pronounce, double consonant te. Zukute, the form required to then add iru, usually to be as in to exist of animate objects, so people and animals. In this case, after the form, it indicates a continuous action or a continuous state. Yeah, in this case, I am making, simply be doing, so continuous action, continuing action, or continuing state, in our case continuing action. But after that we actually have kono and then a name, so that washiga ima tsukuteiru is actually relative clause. Related to the following noun. Well, first we have, of course, kono, this, the demonstrative adjective, Pokémon repoto. Check repoto, the accent, but yeah, Pokémon report. Report in the sense I'd say more of reportage. And yeah, it's accented on the po as expected, reporto. So the translation is as for what you received by bringing could be also because now that I think about it, maybe it could be, I don't remember if it's exactly like that, but Oak might have sent the Pokémon report to our protagonist before, but yeah, I don't remember that. It's of course stuff found in the manual if it's like that. But yeah, either way, our protagonist received the Pokémon report. What you received this time is this Pokémon report that I'm now making. Let's continue. Let's hope we can make, we can check all these writings at the very least. Then, unfortunately, we won't be able to actually play this time. We'll play next time after this introduction. We'll simply save after this. Kore ni noseru Pokémon tachi no shashi no kimi ni totte kite morau tame nanja. First and foremost, we have kore, the demonstrative pronoun this. Ni, again as in to, into, because of the following verb, which is noseru. We have seen technically it's related to noru, which we have seen means to get on, to ride, while noseru, both are unaccented, means to place on something. Other extended meanings, but yeah, to place on, so to place on this. Of course, again, it's another relative clause. because then we have a noun, Pokémon tachi, Pokémon of course, then we have the pluralizing suffix tachi, then we have the possessive particle no of Pokémons, then we have sashin, which is the Japanese word for it's a Chinese compound, so we'll check its accent. It's the word for photograph, photo, picture, as in again photograph. Yeah, and it's accented. The photographs of Pokemon, which you implied will put on these. Then we have the object particle o. Again, we have kimi, you. Then we have ni, the particle. And yeah, here there's a similar further confirmation of what I was saying, because then we have totte, kite, morau. First and foremost, totte. In this case, I'd say take, as in of the photographs. Consider that they are the object. Toru is a verb, code and verb. We have to follow the rules. It's in rules, so double consonant te. Then we had kite, the verb kuru, that the form. Take and come, so the most likely simply the direction in which the action happens. And then after that we have again morau. So receive, as in you again receive the favor that you take the pictures of Pokemon that you put here. Last but not least, we have tame. We've seen it before, I think, which means sake, purpose, also a good advantage, but yeah, in this case, sake, purpose. And it's used simply, it's technically a noun, accented on the last syllable, tame, but it's used to make the final, it's for, well, in this case, simply, it's the purpose of receiving the favor that you take the pictures of Pokemons, which you'll put here. You'll put on here. Of course, at the end we also have Nanja and Yo. So again, Na, because it's we have that when attaching no after a noun, we have to add that na in between, but then we have the n, which is again no da ja, because ok is old, and then yo, the final sentence particle, you know. So yeah, it is for the purpose of and so on, what we have already translated. Okay, let's quickly continue. Hopefully there isn't much more. Koko, Pokemon Island wa Ironna tokoro ni Pokemon tachi ga sundeoru. First and foremost, we have Koko, again here. Pokemon Island. Pokemon Island. Quickly check Island, the accent, but it should be on the A. Yeah, it's on the first I, so the first syllable, Island. then we have the topic particle wa. As for here, the Pokémon Island. Then we have Ironna. Again, we have seen it before. It's from Iro, unaccented, literally the application of Iro color, but it then becomes technically from different colors, it becomes various, as in a variety of. Then we have, of course, the na. It's an adjective. Here it's abbreviated instead of having iro, iro, na, iro, n. That n to avoid to simplify the application, but the meaning is the same. So various. Then we have tokoro, which means place, spot, and so on, scene, site, but yeah, place is the fundamental reading. Tokoro, unaccented. Ni, at, in, the location with verbs of existence, as we'll see soon enough. Pokemon tachi, again, the Pokemons, the subject particle ga. And then we have the verb sunde oru, from sumu, which means to leave, accented. Then we have to make the te form. It's a verb golden verb, so we have to follow the rules. It's in mu, so it becomes te, of course, because it's also nasal. And last but not least, we have oru, which is accented, by the way. It's the humble form of the verb iru, but the meaning is the same, to be, as in to exist. So yeah, the translation is, as for this place, Pokémon Island, the Pokémons live, are living, or are in the state of are living, say are living, in various places. Then we have this. Sokode washi ga atsumeshita 01 go no tebanja. First and foremost, we have soko, again, that place, so there, the, at, in, location. Ashi, again, I, got the subject particle. Hatsume is a Chinese compound, which means to, well, on its own, invention. Should be unaccented, yeah, it's unaccented. And so here with the verb suru, to do an invention, so to make an invention, to invent. Shita, so in the past, I invented. Sokode, in this case, figuratively, so at that point would be better, at the point. Then it's a relative clause, of course, again, a relative referred to 0, 1, go. 0 and 1 are from English, of course, 0, 1. Go means number, is used as a suffix after numbers. Then we have the possessive particle no. Then we have the ban, which means literally turn, ban, de from deru, to come out, to exit. So the turn in which one comes out, so one's turn, is unaccented. And then of course the copula, since it's a noun, ja. at that point, it's the turn, it's the time of the 0-1 number, which I have invented. Then we have Kore ni notte, dekakete kure. Kore, this, demonstrative pronoun, ni, into. Then we have the verb notte, noru, noru, and accented, to get on, to ride. I'd say that the form, it's again in u verb, cotton verb, in ru, so it becomes double consonant te. In this case, let's say by riding this. And then we have the verb dekakeru, dekakete in this case, the form. Technically a compound verb from deru again. Deru, it's a verb, it's an verb, so the continuity form is we drop the ru to make it, and then add kakeru to hang up. But yeah, it's the kakeru globally unaccented, by the way, despite kakeru being accented, means to go out on, as in on an excursion or outing. We make that a form, the kakeru. Kakeru is a ru verb, it's an verb, so we drop the ru at te. Last but not least, we have kure. Technically, it's the infinitive, it's the continuative form of the verb kureru, another verb of giving, as in the receiver is the speaker. In this case, again, we make the continuative form in this particular case simply to make another form of making the favor of, please, an polite imperative form. Not as polite as, of course, kudasai, but still relatively so. So yeah, go out on an excursion, on an outing, by riding this. And actually, quickly, let's do it like this. Okay, sorry, not this. This. Let's see if I took it properly. Oops, sorry. Because, yeah, we are definitely way beyond our usual time, so... yeah, we should have got... sorry that hopefully I can get this... not this, sorry. No. Yeah, hopefully we have... I'll quickly let it run again. But yeah, if it has saved it, yeah, Professor Oak. We'll check this next time, since it's quite late, unfortunately. Yeah, so if you pressed A, you would loop the explanation, but we don't want that. Yeah, perfect. It's done. So I'll quickly go back into the game. Press this. We'll check it next time. It's what you use to save. And then I'll exit. Yeah, we'll check all those readings when we have more time. Okay, so I can close the game. Oops, sorry about that. Let's use this. Unfortunately, it's not easy to close the game with the controller, so I keep it like this and then. But yeah, we've started Pokémon Snap. Unfortunately, we weren't even able to finish the intro because we also checked some of the options. So next time we're definitely finishing the intro, actually start playing the game. We'll still check some more options, I say, but yeah, first and foremost, we'll finish that intro. Okay, see you next time.